Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have the wandering black hole. If you keep up with space news, you'll know that lately, and rightfully so, it's been flooded with news of the James Webb Telescope as it unfurls and reaches its destination at L2, but while this is exciting and very promising, we have to take some time to remember our roots. The James Webb was preceded by the infamous Hubble Space Telescope. The Hubble walked so James Webb could run. Since its launch into low Earth orbit in the 1990s, this space telescope has been delivering us amazing space discoveries, and this one is a bit of a frightening one. Back in 2017, the Hubble located a black hole, which is already frightening, but this one was peculiar. That is because they found that this one was basically being pulled or manipulated by gravitational waves. Basically what this means is that at some point this black hole is going to escape its own galaxy and begin roaming into the universe. Black holes are bad enough, I don't want them to start wandering around. The good news, however, is that despite this black hole weighing approximately the same as 1 billion suns, as it flies through space at 5 million miles per hour, it's estimated to be about 8 billion light years away from Earth, so we're pretty safe at this point. In our number 9 spot today, we have the Trementina Base. This is a location that was, of course, discovered using satellite imaging, and you might be wondering what this base holds that makes it so unsettling. Well, that is because this is the location that belongs to the Scientology-affiliated Church of Spiritual Technology. If you are unfamiliar, Scientology is a set of beliefs and practices that were invented by L. Ron Hubbard, and it has been variously defined as a cult. The core belief of this group is that humans are immortal and that our bodies are essentially just a shell to house us. There's also some alien stuff in there I'm not quite so sure about. This group is quite controversial, not only for the beliefs of the group, but because of their illegal activities that also occur, like fraud or spying on the government. There have been numerous superior court judgments which have not only called this group a dangerous cult, but also a manipulative, profit-making business as well. So this base is said to belong to the Church of Spiritual Technology, and they are said to be an entity that was formed to manage the copyright affairs of the Church of Scientology. This base is supposed to provide storage space for an archiving project, which is meant to preserve founder L. Ron Hubbard's writings, films, and recordings for future generations, which is definitely a terrifying thought. It is said that these texts have been engraved on stainless steel tablets that are encased in titanium capsules and held underground. Maybe a little overzealous if you ask me. In our number 8 spot today, we have Stereo A. The Solar Terrestrial Relations Observatory, or STEREO for short, is a solar observation mission that was first launched in 2006. The mission saw the launch of 2 spacecrafts, Stereo A and B, and they were sent into orbit around the Sun. This has caused the spacecraft to pull ahead of and fall behind the Earth, which has given them the opportunity to use their stereoscopic capabilities to get imaging of the Sun, as well as phenomena such as coronal mass ejection, which is exactly what we are here to talk about today. In July of 2012, there was a CME, often referred to as a sort of solar superstorm, that tore through Earth's orbit, but luckily Earth wasn't there. The same couldn't be said, however, for the Stereo A spacecraft, as this storm and the craft collided. If this event had occurred just 1 week prior to when it did, Earth would have been right in the midst of it, however, so we were pretty narrowly missed. The Stereo A spacecraft has been able to remain operational despite this hot encounter. In our number 7 spot today, we have the Lost City. In 2011, archaeologist Sarah Parcak used high-resolution and NASA satellites in order to look for subtle differences on the surface of the Earth, and she used this in order to pinpoint the locations of buried ancient pyramids, towns, and ancient tombs in Egypt. This would allow her and her team to find these spots from thousands of miles away so that they could then go and excavate them. While this method led to many amazing discoveries, perhaps the most notable of all is the discovery of a 3,000-year-old Egyptian city. She and her team had found the lost ancient city of Tanis, which lies about 2 hours northeast of Cairo. Through this satellite imaging, she was able to find networks of streets and such that are completely invisible from the ground. The imaging also shows that the city is filled with underground tombs as well. Sarah explains why she enjoys what she does so much, saying, quote, "What's incredible about archaeology is literally every day archaeologists are making headlines by making the most incredible discoveries." Well, Sarah, this is certainly one of them. In our number 6 spot today, we have whales. There are quite a few satellites that orbit our Earth, and there has been for years, but as time goes on, we find new ways to use the information that they give us. According to an article written on January 20th of this year, there is a new study that is showing how, as satellite imagery improves, it is being used to accurately identify whales that have been stranded on beaches. The article goes on to explain why this is important, saying, quote, "For as long as humans have been monitoring the ocean, the only way we've known about stranded whales was to stumble upon them ourselves. But knowing about stranded whales, including where and when they strand and how many are ashore, is vitally important. Largely due to human causes such as ship strikes, pollution, and entanglement in fishing gear, whale strandings are on the rise. Their occurrence can often signal that something is amiss and hint at a larger ecosystem problem, such as a harmful algal bloom, yet the ground-based networks used to monitor stranded whales are biased towards wealthy, highly populated regions. It is very true that despite their enormous size, many of these creatures that wash up on remote coastlines or in resource-limited nations or in countries experiencing conflict end up going completely unnoticed." In our number 5 spot today, we have the SS Yasim wreck. The SS Yasim was a Bolivian cargo ship that sank on the evening of December 1st, 2003. For a while, no one was quite sure as to why it sank, as well as the fact that no one could find the wreck. This is exactly why it was so surprising when, a few years ago, the Google Maps team located the sunken vessel based on their satellite imaging. The ship was found on its side, perhaps in the same location it initially sank, in Wingate Reef just off of the coast of Sudan. This wreck then became one of the largest visible on Google Earth until quite recently. In our number 4 spot today, we have the Lake of Blood. This is another find that came as someone was scrolling along and looking at all there is to see on Google Maps all the way back in 2007. This is when they noticed a blood-red lake that sat just outside of Sadr City in Iraq. Many people began to speculate what this could be about, including a ton of macabre ideas. There was even a rumor going around that said a local slaughterhouse in the area would sometimes dump their blood into canals, but this seems a little unnecessary and very unlikely. There hasn't yet been an official explanation for what exactly made the water so red, but it's most likely that the red color is due to sewage, pollution, or possibly some sort of water treatment process. I can understand why the startling image would get people's imaginations going, but it is likely a pretty reasonable explanation. In our number 3 spot today, we have the Gobi Desert structure. This is one discovery that had conspiracy theorists' minds absolutely swirling. About a decade ago, someone was searching through some Google Maps images when they found a mysterious array of structures and patterns that appeared to be etched into the surface of the Gobi Desert, which is located in China. The structures are reminiscent of geoglyphs, but are seemingly much more modern and newly created. The speculations of what this structure could be or why it was created went wild, with people saying that they were street maps of American cities or messages either to or from some sort of extraterrestrials. The list of bizarre theories just goes on. While this is still sort of conspiracy sounding, this is likely the most reasonable explanation for what these structures are, and that is that these structures are used to help calibrate China's spy and radar satellites. To be fair, this does make a lot of sense, and I don't have any other ideas for what it could possibly be. In our number 2 spot today, we have Leo 1. So, we live on Earth, which is one of the planets in our solar system, and our solar system sits in a galaxy that we call the Milky Way. There are other galaxies out there that are potentially similar to ours, but there are also things called satellite galaxies. So you know how our solar system is a solar system because we are bound to and orbiting around our sun? Well, basically these satellite galaxies are like that, but with bigger galaxies. Like, they orbit around our galaxy. It's a whole thing about gravity and all of that sciencey stuff, but in the end, here in the Milky Way, we have about 50 satellite galaxies that orbit us, and the particular one I want to talk about right now is called Leo 1. We started investigating this specific one because of the fact that researchers realized that it doesn't contain a lot of dark matter. While studying this galaxy, it was found that although it is small, it has a massive black hole at the center of it. Like, it's so big in comparison to the galaxy itself that this black hole is almost as big as the one we have here in the Milky Way, which is unprecedented data. This discovery could lead scientists to redefining what their understanding is of how all galaxies formed. The galaxies are the building blocks of the universe, so this would be immensely interesting and important information, and it could change a lot of what we once believed. In our number 1 spot today, we have the missing hiker. This one is a little different from the others on today's list, but it's a super interesting story that involves using satellites, and I had to share it with you. A man by the name of Ben Kuo has a hobby where he enjoys looking at different satellite imagery in order to look at all places all over the world. He has said, quote, "You can look and see what's going on in the world no matter where it is. It's kind of fascinating what you can see." He then went on to describe how it's kind of trivial, but he loves it, and in this case it was more useful than trivial. The case he is referring to took place in April of 2021 when a hiker named Rene Campion got lost in the Angeles National Forest. While lost with little reception and low battery on his phone, Rene was able to send one photo to his roommate, which he sent in hopes to give a clue about his location. The photo showed his legs with a sort of canyon below, and while I look at the photo and go, okay, he's somewhere that has rocks, I guess, people like Ben see this as a stellar clue. Ben said, quote, "Actually, I looked at the picture and I said, I bet I can find where this guy is." Ben used his own knowledge of hiking trails in the area as well as sites like Google Earth and EO Browser in order to zero in on where the missing hiker could be. It took Ben about 20 to 30 minutes to find what he thought was the location of the missing person, and he passed along the info to the search and rescue team. In the end, when the sheriff's department went out to investigate, they found the missing man less than a mile from where Ben suggested he might be. Once found and informed of how they located him, Rene said, quote, "I was like, wow, I didn't realize somebody had a hobby doing stuff like that. I owe him my life and everybody else that was involved in helping."
Starting off this countdown, we have these space monkeys. If you're an animal lover, then this one is gonna break your heart. Before sending humans into space, animals were launched into space to see how space travel would affect them. They typically chose primates for their close relation to humans. Obviously, looking back at that is hella messed up. A number of monkeys sadly passed away from these tests. I mean, the first monkey sent into space died from suffocation. There's photos of him being prepped and getting ready for space, and now looking at those photos, it's just hella disturbing. So now NASA has removed all the photos they have of their test subjects. They don't want people finding out their controversial past. Of course, you can still find these photos online today, but NASA still has tried to cover it up. In our 9th spot, we have the aliens. It seems like NASA and Area 51 might be hiding aliens. What's new? The photo I'm about to share with you is a leaked photo of aliens hidden in Area 51. The photo was taken in the 1980s, and years later someone leaked it online. I don't know about you, but that looks exactly like a space alien to me. And it looks like they're running some sort of tests on them or something. Now, of course, people think that this photo is fake. Go ahead, believe whatever. Just know that there are tons of individuals that believe it to be real. Plus, it's never been debunked. Take what you want for that. Coming in at number 8, we have the second sun. According to astronomer Paul Cox, there is a second sun in our solar system, and NASA is keeping it a secret. Why would they do that? I don't know, because they can. So Paul discovered this after using his telescope to stare at the planets. He actually live streamed him doing this, and while doing so, he pointed to a black dot, which was Mercury. He said that this was the location of the second sun. He said, and I quote, "You may be asking yourself, what is that large round thing to the right of the sun? Well, that's our second sun. I don't know if you knew that we had a second sun, but there it is. It is normally hidden from view. NASA and other organizations usually hide that stuff away from us." Now, I don't know why NASA would hide this from us, but apparently they are, and there's a second sun out there. In our 7th spot, we have the SpaceX explosion. Back in 2020, a NASA worker leaked video and photographic evidence of a SpaceX explosion. NASA was furious when they found out and sent out a memo to all workers saying that they would be fired if they publicly shared photos and videos from the Space Center again. And then someone leaked that memo. Anyways, NASA was all like, nah, nothing happened, nothing exploded. Then the video surfaced and they're like, oh snap, we're caught. It started when people saw smoke coming over the space coast and were like, what's going on over there? And NASA failed to properly explain. But like I said, things got leaked and they were exposed. In our 6th spot, we have Planet X. So astronomer Paul Cox says that NASA has proof of Planet X. It's a broken planet that is behind the sun that he believes will eventually crash into Earth and wipe out all of humanity. But obviously, NASA doesn't want anyone to know this, which is why they're hiding it from all of us. And I genuinely hope that this isn't true, and that Paul's lying, and that he knows nothing, because that's terrifying. We are now at our 5th and halfway mark with the trees on Mars. A weird shot taken of Mars revealed what looked like dark trees rising from the surface. Like, it straight up looks like trees and shrubs are growing there, which we know isn't possible. So then, what is it? Well, NASA says that it's just an optical illusion and it's not actually trees. But other people think that NASA is trying to already grow things on Mars, or that this is part of an alien structure. Who knows? But NASA's being hella sketchy with this photo. In our 4th spot, we have the lady on Mars. In 2007, people went nuts when the Spirit rover snapped this eerie photo on the planet. It literally looks like a human figure perched on a rock. Now NASA immediately denied this and said that, it's just a rock. But that didn't stop UFO enthusiasts. They believe that this rock is actually a female figure made by aliens, or that it is an alien. Like, look at that. How can that be a rock? Like, there's fully arms and clothing on it. I'm sorry, I don't believe it. Nice try, NASA. Better luck next time. That's a woman. In our 3rd spot, we have these space guests. A couple of years ago, a Russian cosmonaut aboard the International Space Station noticed 3 unusual lights fly by their craft. Thankfully, they got it on film. The cosmonaut believes that what he saw and captured was indeed a UFO flying by. He said, and I quote, 5 objects appear flying alongside with the same distance. What do you think those are? Meteors, satellites, or ... The lights are in a straight line and apparently were hanging around that area for almost a minute before disappearing. He has no explanation for it besides it being a UFO spacecraft. In our 2nd spot, we have the alien statue. In 2019, NASA accidentally leaked some photos that we shouldn't have been able to see. So they released photos taken by their Mars robot Opportunity. In one of the shots, someone pointed out that there appears to be a dark object near one of Mars's craters. It looks like this object has a long arm, a bulky chest, and 2 leg fragments. One person said, and I quote, "It looks like an actual statue. There seems to be so many anomaly stones on Mars that at some point one must admit that sometimes a rock is an ancient artifact." Whereas others believe that this is an alien's corpse that is decomposing. But what do you think? It certainly looks like an alien to me. And in our number 1 spot today, we have the alien city. So there's a theory out there that aliens do actually live on the moon. However, they inhabit the dark side of the moon, aka the side of the moon facing away from us that we can't see. Well, a man named Scott Waring found physical evidence to prove this. He obtained satellite images from the dark side of the moon and saw that the moon has structures that cast shadows. Take a look for yourself. If you zoom into the photos, you can see a bunch of weird objects on the moon's surface. That's not the normal texture of the moon. Those look like structures. So he believes that aliens are for sure on the moon and that NASA has been covering it up for years. Not only that, but the images that NASA chose to share with the public had been altered so that the objects were edited out. And then NASA added fake craters in that location. Why would they do that? Huh? That's suspicious. Yeah, that's hella sus.
Starting off this list in our number 10 spot, we have interstellar medium. If you're into space news, you'll know that the Voyager 1 and the Voyager 2 are 2 spacecrafts that have breached the edge of our solar system and have traveled further than any other man-made object before. This is important because it's given us insights we've never even had access to before, and that is exactly where this deep space discovery comes from. For a long time, we weren't exactly sure what was outside of our solar system, but we assumed it must be a dark, cold place outside of the embrace of our sun, but we now know that that is far from true. Beyond the boundaries of our solar system, there is a region that is full of invisible but chaotic activity. Experts have described it like the plunge pool under Niagara Falls, but instead of tumbling water, this region is chaotic because of solar wind. This area of space is said to be millions of kilometers thick, and it covers billions of square kilometers around the surface of our heliosphere. Michelle Bannister, who is an astronomer at the University of Canterbury in Christchurch, New Zealand, explained this area and the solar winds as a constant, powerful stream of charged particles or plasma spraying out in every direction from the sun as it crashes into a cocktail of gas, dust, and cosmic rays that blows between star systems, known as interstellar medium. Because of our comfy place in the solar system and the heliosphere that surrounds us, we are protected from this space storm happening just outside of our bubble. In our number 9 spot today, we have a whirlpool galaxy planet. Just a few months ago, it was announced that astronomers may have found a planet in a star system outside of the Milky Way, and if this is the case, it would be the first ever found in another galaxy. This planet was discovered in a spiral galaxy that is called Messier 51, but its nickname is the Whirlpool Galaxy. I like the Milky Way a lot, but that nickname has me super intrigued. But this galaxy is located a cool 23 million light years away from Earth, so I think just hearing about it will probably have to do. The first planets that lie outside of our solar system, also called exoplanets, were found in the 1990s, and while we've found thousands more, this is the first time we found a planet in another galaxy, and it will be the furthest alien planet ever identified, like by thousands of times. This planet was found in what is called an X-ray binary system, which is a type of star system. As their name implies, these star systems produce and emit X-rays, and they usually are made up of a normal star and a collapsed star, like a black hole or what is known as a neutron star. So usually when astronomers are trying to find a new planet, they use what is called the transit method. Transit is when a planet orbits in front of its parent star, and for us, it causes an observable change in the light of the star. So the experts who found this new planet used this same method, but instead of optical light, they used X-ray light. In our number 8 spot today, we have radio bursts. We get a lot of radio signals from space. Some are more exciting and mysterious than others, and it's not uncommon for some of the most mysterious ones to repeat, but for the very first time just last year, researchers noticed a pattern in a series of bursts that are coming from one single source. Oh, and it just so happens that this source is 500 million light years from Earth. Fast radio bursts are super short, like millisecond long bursts of radio waves in space, and usually when they repeat, it tends to be sort of sporadic or all in a cluster. That is exactly why this discovery that was made by researchers at the Canadian Hydrogen Intensity Mapping Experiment and Fast Radio Burst Project collaboration was so strange and exciting. For a period between September 16th, 2018 and October 30th, 2019, they observed these radio bursts and noticed a pattern that repeated every 6.35 days. For 4 days, the signal would release a burst or two each hour, and then it would go silent for 12 days before repeating the process. Now the focus has turned to trying to find out what is on the other end of these signals and where they are coming from. What do you think? In our number 7 spot today, we have a white dwarf. Okay, so for this discovery, we all have to be on the same page with white dwarfs. These things are a stellar core remnant that are made up of mostly electron degenerate matter. These things are dense. They have a mass close to that of the sun, but their volume is similar to that of Earth. Basically, white dwarfs are in the final stage of a star, or the final evolutionary stage of a star whose mass is not quite high enough to become a neutron star or a black hole. This is what will one day happen to our sweet sun as well, since it's really not that large of a star. So, now that we all get what a white dwarf is, we have discovered one, and it is known to be the fastest spinning white dwarf we have ever found. This star was located in the binary system LAMOST J02401952, yeah, that was its short name, and the star completes a full rotation every 24.93 seconds. While it's taking us 24 hours, this thing is taking 24 seconds. That sounds like the worst ride at the fair. Scream if you want to go faster. In our number 6 spot today, we have more radio bursts. Remember when I said that radio bursts happen often in space? Yeah, well, here we are talking about another one. I swear I wasn't lying. Researchers like Dr. Benjamin Pope at the University of Queensland, along with colleagues from the Dutch National Observatory Astron, have been using the world's most powerful telescope to search for new planets. This has led to the detection of stars that are unexpectedly blasting out radio waves, which has now led researchers to believe that this may be due to the existence of hidden planets. We know that planets in our own solar system emit powerful radio waves, which is what happens when their magnetic fields interact with solar winds, but we had yet to pick up radio signals from planets outside of our solar system, which is what makes this discovery so exciting. Dr. Joseph Callingham at Leiden University and Astron, who is also the lead author of this discovery, said that the team is confident these signals are coming from the magnetic connection of the stars and unseen orbiting planets, similar to the interaction between Jupiter and its moon Io. In our number 5 spot today we have a black hole. You would think with how terrifying black holes are we'd know a lot about them, or that they'd at least be easy to identify, but it turns out that neither of those things are true. That is certainly a frightening thought, but that is also what made this little discovery an exciting one. Just a few weeks ago, astronomers discovered a small black hole just outside of the Milky Way, and it is hiding in a little star cluster. This discovery was made by looking at how this black hole was influencing the motion of the star that is closest to it, and that made it the first time this sort of method was used to detect a black hole outside of our galaxy. This is a very valuable discovery because it means that this method could potentially be used to help discover black holes that exist in other galaxies, which could then help shed light onto how these mysterious things form and evolve. In our number 4 spot today we have Martian meteorites. Okay, so this is a discovery that comes from our solar system, and it does involve Earth and Mars. It might not be the farthest out space discovery, but for reference, the closest that Earth and Mars could possibly be, which has never happened, it's just theoretical, is 54.6 million kilometers away from each other. But in that same breath, the furthest they can be from each other is 401 million kilometers. So it's safe to say we certainly aren't close. Over the past 20 million years or so, there's been about 166 Martian rocks that have landed on Earth, but for all of this time, their exact origins were unknown. That was until recently when researchers were able to determine the most likely origin of these meteorites using a machine learning algorithm that analyzes high-resolution planetary images. This research showed that these meteorites that landed on Earth likely originated from the Tooting crater on Mars, which is located in the Tharsis region, the largest volcanic province in the entire solar system. This discovery is groundbreaking because it comes 10 years before the Perseverance rover is set to send back samples of the Martian soil. There is a lot that went into exactly how they made this discovery, and it includes going back in the history of the planet, which is absolutely fascinating. Unfortunately, I only have so much time here, so I can't fully explain it, but Science Daily has a fantastic article about it should you want to read up a little bit more on this incredible research project. In our number 3 spot today we have a baby planet. To us, our Earth may seem kind of old. I mean, it's been around for millions and millions of years and long before us, but in terms of space and the universe, it's really not too old of a planet. Earlier this year, however, scientists discovered one of the youngest planets to ever be found, and it is around a distant infant star. I don't know why, but talking about finding the youngest planet sounds like the cutest thing in the world to me. Thousands of planets have been discovered around other stars, but this one's age is what makes it so unique, and the fact that it can be directly observed. So far we believe that this planet is a few times larger than Jupiter, and it is believed that it formed with its star several million years ago. I mean, our Earth is about 4.5 billion years old, so comparably, this guy's just a little youngster. Like, this planet was forming around the same time that the main Hawaiian Islands were first emerging from the ocean. Because this planet is so young, it is still very hot from the energy that was released during its formation. Like, it's sitting at about the temperature of lava erupting from a volcano, so it's just a little too hot for comfort. In our number 2 spot today we have galactic recoil. There is another galaxy out there that we call the Andromeda Galaxy, and within it we have found this strangely shaped cluster of stars that has been stumping researchers for quite a while, but we think we may have found an answer as to why. This mystery has been around for decades, and this new research might help researchers to better understand how galaxies grow by feeding on each other. Basically, every galaxy has a supermassive black hole at their core. I know, it's kind of terrifying, but it's just the way it is, and there really isn't anything we can do about it. So this new study is showing that when two galaxies collide, which yes, also unfortunately happens, the supermassive black holes and their cores then release a huge, devastating, powerful kickback, like the recoil from a shotgun kind of a situation. This new study and research is now showing and suggesting that this kickback may be so strong that it can knock millions of stars into different wonky, strange orbits, and this might be the answer as to why the star cluster behaves so strangely. Basically, the collision and the waves won't affect the stars in the galaxy directly, but the recoil is going to throw the remaining supermassive black hole through space. And when I say throw, I'm talking about traveling at millions of miles per hour. We also have to remember that supermassive black holes have a mass that can be millions and even billions times that of the sun. This means that this kickback could be powerful enough for them to entirely escape the galaxy, and if they don't, they may pull the orbits of the stars around them, thus creating this wonky situation we've been wondering about. Of course, this is the most basic way of explaining it because an expert I am not, but it is truly such a fascinating concept. In our number 1 spot today we have dead galaxies. It is said that the universe is about 13.8 billion years old. When it was just a youngster at only 3 billion years old, it was going through an extremely important period in its development, and this was the most prolific period of star birth in its entire history. New research from NASA using the Hubble Space Telescope along with the Atacam Large Millimeter Submillimeter Array in northern Chile, they gazed towards the cosmic objects in this period, and that is when they found something they hadn't seen before. 6 different quote dead galaxies. By this I mean that they had run out of the cold hydrogen needed to make stars, and without the fuel for stars, these galaxies were basically just running on empty. At this point in our universe, all the galaxies should have been forming tons of stars. I mean, ours certainly was, as can be seen by a glance towards the night sky, especially in areas that aren't clouded by light pollution. This discovery is absolutely fascinating, but it's led us to new questions we didn't even know we had before. What led these galaxies to this point? What happened to all of the cold gas in them so early on? These 6 galaxies lived fast, hot lives, but we aren't sure what went wrong. Lead author and assistant professor of astronomy at the University of Massachusetts Amherst, Kate Whitaker, proposed several potential explanations and gave us insight into the future of the studies when she said, quote, "Did a supermassive black hole in the galaxy's center turn on and heat up all the gas? If so, the gas could still be there, but now it's hot. Or it could have been expelled and now it's being prevented from accreting back into the galaxy. Or did the galaxy just use it all up and the supply is cut off?" These are some of the open questions that we'll continue to explore with new observations down the road.